Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cyrus Webb Presents. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. Want to also say welcome to those joining us on the radio side for conversations live here on Max WYAD 94.1 FM and WYADonline.com. For those joining us on the simulcast, we welcome you on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and on X. Going to bring in our friends over on IG so they can be part of our chat. And last but certainly not least, going to connect with our friends over on Amazon Live. I'm very excited about this next guest. He's written a book that I think everyone, whether you're into history or nature, I think you're going to find this conversation fascinating because I think it has to do with not only the world that we live in today, but also what it's been like for it to explore the world around us as well. We're now live on the Amazon Live side with Cyrus Webb Presents. Going to type you guys in a welcome message over there. If you guys are new to us on Amazon, welcome. Make sure you guys hit that follow button either here in this corner or down below. You also see the newest book by our next guest. Oren Harman is joining us today to talk about his new book that's already an Amazon bestseller called Metamorphosis. We're going to talk to him not only about his love of history and nature, but what's been like for him to bring that together in this book and to be able to take a different look at the world around us as well. Oren, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure being with you today.
The pleasure is definitely all mine. Oren, you had me when this book was first pitched to me. I love history. I love learning. I love the idea of exploring not only the world around us, but also we ourselves as human beings. And you kind of bring all of that together in Metamorphosis. What has it been like for you to see the early response to the book?
Well, this has been an amazing journey for me. It started with my wife coming out of the shower one evening and announcing that we were pregnant for the third time. She was pregnant. We were pregnant. We were going to be parents for the third time. And that very evening, I had a dream about a childhood dry aquarium that I used to have when I was a kid. And I would sort of glue my eyes to the aquarium to try to glimpse a blue butterfly emerge from a chrysalis, thinking that I was a scientist kind of solving the mysteries of the world and just, looking at complete wonder at this marvelous apparition in nature. And then I just started having the dreams again and again and again, night after night, night after night. And so I started thinking that there must be some connection between metamorphosis and the impending birth of our third child. And I embarked on that journey about 7 years ago. It took me to different places in across the globe and to a laboratory in Germany and another lab in Orca waters up in the North Pacific in the United States. And so it's been wonderful seeing the book come to life finally.
Yeah. And Oren, let me say hello to you guys over on IG. Hello to you, Passport to Wellness. I love that name over there on IG. Young Heaven, hello to you over there on IG as well. What I thought was so interesting, Oren, even for people who have not read anything else that you've done, I think this book really does show your appreciation for the world in general, but also definitely when it comes to nature. When did that start for you? When did you first realize the desire to appreciate what was around you, but also the need to also be able to explore it?
Well, I grew up just above the Jerusalem forest in Jerusalem, and from the time I can remember myself, I was sneaking out of the house and going down to the forest, and I became a lover of butterflies and a collector of butterflies at a very young age, and so I've always been struck by the majesty of nature and then trying to understand ourselves through nature, because we ourselves, although we often tend to think of ourselves as apart from nature, we are a part of nature.
Yeah.
And then in university, I gravitated towards biology and evolutionary biology in particular, which teaches the lesson that we are indeed part of a grander tale that starts 3.8 billion years ago. And I've always thought that looking at other creatures is a wonderful thing in itself, but it's also a gateway to an understanding of ourselves. And so that's what this particular book, Metamorphosis, brought out most strongly to me.
Yeah. And you're not afraid to be able to research what others have thought. You take us back to some individuals and their own views about the evolving world and nature and science. What was that like for you to explore and to spend time with, to think about through the years how people have been viewed because of their ideas about nature and evolution and metamorphosis, but also how it kind of plays into where we are today?
Yeah, so one of the heroes of this book is a woman by the name of Maria Sibylla Merian, who was an artist born to a family of artists in Germany in the 17th century, who, like many painters of her day, painted flowers. And if you notice, if you look at the Rembrandts and the Vermeers of those days, they often have insects
Mhm.
interspersed in the flowers, but the insects really have nothing to do with the ecology or a biology of the flowers. And what Maria Sibylla Merian began to notice was that she became more interested in the insects than in the flowers that she was painting. And
Mm.
so she ended up leading a life, a very rich life, selling all of her effects and getting on a ship in the year 1699 and traveling to Suriname in South America in order to study the life cycle of exotic butterflies and moths. And it was incredible to try to understand metamorphosis through her eyes in those days, when most people, when they looked at metamorphosis, they saw Jesus transforming into Christ. For them, it was kind of an earthly reminder that deliverance is possible, that
Mhm.
you can change, that if you put your mind to it and your heart to it, you can change in life. And the butterfly was just an exemplar of that. So it's been really interesting looking at how the ancient Greeks perceived metamorphosis in their own terms and their own philosophy, and then
Yeah.
the early Christians, all the way to the most cutting edge laboratories today, where we try to understand it in genetic and physiological terms.
Yeah. And that leads me back. It's so interesting. I didn't know you were going to share that story in the beginning of this conversation, Oren, about your wife telling you about, preparing for your third child, because I think that is a great example for us human beings of our own metamorphosis, because definitely you're a different man than you were with your first child, than your second, and now your third, because you have now learned experience, right? You have things that you're bringing to, this new layer of fatherhood that you didn't have with the first child. Did that make you more appreciative as you did this history, Oren, of how we can evolve and how we can change and how we can be able to grow on our own?
For sure. I mean, we think often, I mean, first of all, we're transfixed by creatures that appear in one guy's one moment and then transform seemingly overnight into something completely different.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
kind of the closest thing to natural magic.
Mhm.
And when we think of our own changes in life, then we're very ambivalent about them. You look in the mirror and you ask yourself, am I the same person that I was yesterday, or 10 years ago, or 20 years ago? And you sort of bemoan the fact that you've changed, but at the same time we praise the wisdom that comes with the wrinkles that we see when we look in the mirror. So we
Yeah.
have this ambivalent attitude toward change.
Mhm.
And what I think I learned from researching and writing this book is that, you know metamorphosis seems like a very dramatic thing that happens all at once. But
Yeah.
what nature teaches us is that it's always preceded by this highly choreographed and often invisible preparation. You go through a lot of stuff in order to end up changing.
Mhm.
It's important to appreciate that process. um, it allows us to prepare for it better, because changing is not about just ending things. It's also
Mhm.
beginning things and
Yeah.
continuing things that have been happening all the while.
Yeah. And I think that's why having that beautiful butterfly that we see so front and center on the cover of the book really ties so well into that. Prairie Dodgers, hey Cindy, good to be able to see you over there on IG. Let me reset real quick, Orin, and say for those who are just tuning in, welcome. You're watching Cyrus Webb Presents on Amazon Live, or you're listening to Conversations Live on the radio dial of Mississippi. We're excited to welcome Oren Harman to our broadcast today, celebrating his brand new bestseller called Metamorphosis. And the book really does not only take us through history, but also a better understanding of not only the change that is happening around us, but also hopefully inside of us too. Or and you just tied into something I thought for myself in reading the book, as you were talking about how we, praise like the wrinkles. You mentioned that because that shows the wisdom. This book also shows that the important things take time, just like with the ecosystem that we live that we live with and grow with, that even growing ourselves can be a process, and not to try to rush the process, like with the butterfly, right? They go through a process that takes time. Has that helped you with your worldview, Oren, in better appreciating that and not trying to rush through life?
Undoubtedly, undoubtedly, and also understanding that everything has its time
Yeah.
and its place. You know, some things changing is hard.
Yeah.
You know, and we see that in nature. I mean, why does a butterfly need to disband? A caterpillar disappears in a chrysalis, and it really takes itself apart.
Yeah.
If you pick a chrysalis, there's going to be like an oozing kind of gook coming out because it's completely rearranging itself. It's rearranging its brain. It's building new structures like wings and
Mhm.
sexual parts and so forth. So it's really hard to change,
Yeah.
and yet change is the lifeblood of living.
Mhm.
You know, if you don't change, you die.
Yeah.
Living things change. That's by definition. And so learning to live with change and appreciating that everything has its time in a certain cycle is a very important life skill that we gain over time. And some of us are better at gaining that skill, and some of us are not as good. And I felt that spending these years with metamorphic creatures, from the immortal jellyfish, which goes through, it's sort of like the Benjamin Button of nature. it
Mhm.
it becomes an adult, and then it reverts to being a baby and lives life again and again and again and again, infinitely. Or cicadas, periodical cicadas that emerge every 13 or 17 years in droves. uh, so many of them that you can detect them with the Doppler gun. But they've been undergoing these molts over these years, 5 or 6 of them, unseen by us.
Yeah.
Um, all this preparation and all this understanding that change is a part of who we are uh, has been really transformative for me.
Yeah. I'm not going to say this book is a reminder. I felt like it was, but I'm not going to say that was your intent, Oren. I'll let you speak to that. But it also is the what I thought about too in reading this, Oren, and thinking about the examples you gave and the attention you spent with kind of talking about how this world is shaped. It really shows also the importance of learning to understand and coexist. I think a lot of times in the world we live in today, it's about, I've seen it here in Mississippi, where, getting rid of trees and, and wildlife. And we are, we're changing, but the question becomes at what cost? What is being lost in the process? Was that one of the things you hope the reader thinks about, how our own decisions can impact the world that we are living in and those who we share the world with?
For sure. And one of the reasons why metamorphosis exists, why dramatic change exists, because you would imagine something so costly would be kicked out by natural selection. If it's an evolved trait, then it should have been kicked out. I mean, you take yourself apart to rebuild yourself, to
Yeah.
become yourself, and yet it persists. So one of the reasons that it persists is because, think of a caterpillar eating a certain particular plant, and it has a relationship with that plant. It can't do without that plant, and the plant can't do without the caterpillar. Um, when it turns into a butterfly, now it's the same creature with the same genes, but it has wings and it looks different, and it can fly to other pastures, and
Yeah.
it doesn't have to compete with its younger self.
Hmm.
And so there's something about finding a niche in in cooperation and in mutuality with your environment, and then changing that niche in order to uh, not to compete too much
Yeah.
with your own creature, that is really tells us something about our relationship to our environments.
Such a great point. Tina Siemens, hello to you over there on Facebook. Like you can be able to join us. So let's talk about then your own evolution in writing the book. I was curious about this, and I was going to start the conversation off this way, but then we started off in such a great way with that story, or I'm so glad you shared about finding out you're going to be a father again to your third child. But I want to talk about your own evolution. How did you change, even in your appreciation and understanding in writing Metamorphosis? And I guess my question then becomes, did you find yourself changing from the time you started this project to the time it ended?
Yeah, well, usually when I write a book, I sort of read a lot and I think a
Mhm.
lot. And at a certain point, the penny begins to drop. And I
Mhm.
understand something about this book and I kind of figure it out. And then I just write it. And writing feels like you're a conduit. It almost comes naturally. The writing is the easiest part. With
Yeah.
this book, I really struggled. I
Hmm.
actually wrote the book 3 times, and each time I threw it in the trash bin.
Wow.
And I was going to give it up on a number of occasions.
Mhm.
Um, but I felt like this was a process that I needed to go through, and that giving up would be um, something that I would, it would be difficult to live with
Yeah.
if I didn't pursue this. And um, what I feel is that I had a bad accident as I was working on this. I broke many bones in my body. I had a bad sort of bike accident,
Mhm.
and learning about the power of change, which in many cases is also the power of healing,
Right.
um, allowed me to go through this difficult period.
Mhm.
And again, John Steinbeck is one of my favorite writers,
Mhm.
and he wrote a book called The Log of the Sea of Cortez in 1951. It's a beautiful book if you don't know it. And
No.
he says there that sort of the greatest danger for a speculative biologist is analogy, is to make analogies between humans and other creatures. Um, but in fact, that these analogies are amusing when it comes to the creatures, and they're downright valuable when it comes to understanding ourselves. So there's so many flavors of change. There's so many ways in which you can change manifested in nature. We think today that 75% of all animal species undergo some form of metamorphosis.
Mm.
So there's every flavor of change that you can imagine. And
Yeah.
by looking at all these examples, we can take some lessons for our own struggles with change. And
Yeah.
this is what I try to get across in the book.
And you definitely do, and I thank you again for sharing that personal experience, because I think it helps us better all understand, and when you're talking about the healing part in particular, I think we all can be able to learn from that. That sometimes that takes time, but that time is necessary for the process, right? And I think that's the great thing about evolution and metamorphosis. Cindy on IG says, "Change evolution, my favorite topic. Glad I popped in. Glad you could be here as well, Cindy. Original poetry. Hello to you again, everyone. Our guest has been Oren Harman. We're talking about his brand new book called Metamorphosis. It's out now here on Amazon. You guys can get it in print, get the Kindle edition as well. I should mention the book is actually on sale right now on Amazon, so you guys can take advantage of that. If you guys want to be able to get the print edition, you can get it right now for 29% off. I'll go ahead and highlight it for you guys. It's 24.11 is the price, but also the Kindle edition is available right now for 41% off as well. Oren, thank you so much for this great conversation piece and this new book. How can our audience stay connected with you?
Well, I have a website. It's www.orenharman.com, ORENHARMAN.com.
Mhm.
So you can write to me there, and you can look at other books that I've written.
Mhm.
I just want to leave maybe our listeners and our viewers with one idea,
Sure.
and that is that caterpillars as everyone knows, turn into butterflies. They create chrysalises and they turn into butterflies. And the butterfly looks nothing like the caterpillar. But the butterfly actually retains memories from the time it was a caterpillar, even though its brain was completely restructured in the chrysalis. So this raises questions about identity and about selfhood. When you change, and all of us change dramatically over a lifetime, do we stay the same person? Are we the same self? This is a question that we ask ourselves and that helps us understand ourselves. And again, by looking at all the many examples of nature that nature presents before us, we can think from different directions about this very basic kind of philosophical question, which, although it's philosophical, actually plays out in a very real way in all of our lives.
Yeah, such a great point. I love that. Thank you so much for that, Oren. And looking forward to having you back on the program again. Really enjoyed the time.
Me too. Thank you so much, Cyrus.
Hey, more than welcome. And we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Cyrus Webb Presents and Conversations Live. Until next time, you all make it a great one. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.